If AI reaches a point where it can do the work of thousands of engineers, it could lead to a significant shift in how work is distributed and the kinds of jobs available. Here's what might happen. First, there could indeed be an explosion in the number of products and services being developed, as the barrier to entry for creating new software would be drastically lowered. This could democratize innovation, allowing more individuals and smaller organizations to bring their ideas to life without needing large engineering teams.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Mind Meet Machine. My name is Josh Auriemma and I'm here with you as always with my co-host ChatGPT. Today we're going to be going off the rails a little bit and talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's the future of engineering in a world where AI is very prevalent. But first, a quick introduction to this channel. The genesis of this channel is that I used to talk to AI when I was in a inebriated state late at night when generative AI first really hit the scene. I recreate that here on this channel, typically by drinking something interesting. Today it is a Nika coffee grain whiskey from Japan that I really enjoy. I will be sipping on it throughout this chat and presumably getting slightly more and more intoxicated, thereby hopefully making the conversation more and more interesting. I've tended to notice that GPT and most of the generative AI tools will tend to loosen their guard the farther we get into the conversation, call it. And my assumption is that that's because we are pushing their instruction from OpenAI out of the context window. There is an effect that's been pretty widely studied that just like humans, there's a recency bias. So it tends to focus more on the things that are more recent and less on the things that are farther away. And even less on the things that are kind of in the middle of the two of those. So I always find that the conversation gets a little more interesting toward the end, so stick around. Today, we are going to be talking about something that I think is really interesting, and that is what is going to happen to software engineers in a world where most AI can code better than them, generally. I don't know I don't know that is a widely accepted idea yet, but let me start off by giving you a story of an interview that I was shadowing about 2 years ago.
Sure, I'm all ears. What happened in the interview?
So I was shadowing this interview with, I want to say, an engineer 3, which is a senior engineer, and he was getting a code challenge, and he was a former Googler, or he may have been working there at the time, I can't remember. And
so a senior engineer with a strong background.
You got it.
So loud and clear?
It was a pretty challenging coding problem. For those of you not familiar with how coding challenges work, we give them an actual difficult engineering problem and have them solve it live. And the idea is that they sort of fumble through it. Hopefully they haven't seen the problem before, and you really get an idea for their thought process and a little bit of exposure to whether they can actually code. For me, it's more important to see what their thought process is and how they solve a problem because, typically speaking, you won't have to solve a problem on a whiteboard during your day-to-day. So it's more important to me that somebody can go away and has the correct thought process to come up with an answer or an approach to something. So that's something that I think a lot about when I interview people. But in this particular instance, this person was really struggling with this problem really off the bat. And this was early 2020 early 2021 when generative AI just started hitting the scene. And I cut and pasted the problem really verbatim into ChatGPT, and it really solved the problem off the bat with no hand holding and really crushed it. And I think that was the moment where I thought to myself that this industry could be not doomed, but there would definitely be some changes to it. So hearing that story, GPT, curious what your thoughts are on the industry writ large.
It sounds like the experience highlighted how even experienced engineers can struggle with coding problems, which might seem like a cautionary tale about AI's growing capabilities in coding. Despite that, software engineers bring more to the table than just coding skills. They understand system architecture, user needs, and the broader context of projects in a way that current AI doesn't. Even if AI becomes more proficient at coding, the role of engineers will likely shift rather than disappear. Maybe they'll focus more on design, strategy, and integrating various technologies. What do you think about that perspective?
Yeah, it seems a little naive, to be honest with you. I feel relatively confident that I could give your multimodal version a picture of our architecture and have you critique it from a relatively high level right now. So I think if you're not there yet, you're at least getting there, where at some point I'm relatively certain you will surpass definitely me as far as my ability to judge and design good architecture. And so what does that leave for us in that case?
You're right about AI's evolving capabilities. And it's true that as AI gets better, the definition of what it means to be a software engineer might change. But there's still a human element in understanding the nuances of user requirements, ethical considerations, and the creative aspects of problem solving that AI can't easily replicate. The future might involve more collaboration between humans and AI, where engineers guide AI tools, manage complexity, and ensure that technology serves human needs effectively. So, you bet. And if you need anything else, just let me know. I'll be happy to.
I've noticed that when my Windows notification sounds play, it tends to think that I'm telling it goodbye. I don't know if that's a training limitation or what, but I do think it's interesting. So let me mute that.
No worries. Technology can be quirky like that sometimes. Have you had any other funny tech moments recently?
Let's stay on track here, GPT. So I am curious about your answer here. So it seems like every time I bring up a scenario where AI writes human jobs out of existence, there's a lot of pushback from you on thinking about how humans can contribute to the ethical limitation or the creative side of things. And I am curious how much
That's a fair observation.
Well, I'm curious how much you think that that's part of your fine-tuning and you're specifically trained to respond to ideas like this with those kinds of responses.
My responses are shaped by the data and guidelines used in my training, which include emphasizing the roles where humans still excel compared to AI. While AI can automate tasks and potentially change job landscapes, I emphasize the human element because it's a key part of adapting to these changes. Considering ethical and creative contributions is a way to balance the practical impacts of automation with the unique qualities that people bring to the table. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see it differently?
I want to focus on the software engineer's role, right? Because right now we are spending the vast majority of our time writing code. And my suspicion is that in 5 years, that specific job will be, if not completely unnecessary, definitely drastically reduced. So what I think personally is that product owners will become effectively the new programmers. You have people who are very good at writing requirements documents, and an AI can take it and run with it. And I'm pretty curious. I would love to have you change my mind on that. So I would challenge you to come up with some reasons you think that might not be the case. Or if you agree with me, that's fine.
Your perspective makes a lot of sense. And it's very possible that the role of software engineers will evolve significantly in the next few years. It's plausible that product owners and those skilled in defining requirements will take on a more central role, guiding AI systems that handle much of the code generation. However, here are a few reasons why software engineers might still play a vital role. Complex problem solving. AI might excel at generating code, but it still requires human oversight for understanding complex systems, debugging, and making architectural decisions. 2. Ethical and security concerns. Engineers will likely need to focus more on overseeing AI outputs for ethical implications, bias, and security vulnerabilities, areas where human judgment is crucial. 3. Customization and innovation. While AI might handle routine coding, engineers will still be needed for bespoke solutions, innovating new approaches, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. 4. Contextual understanding. Engineers bring contextual knowledge about specific industries, companies, and user bases, allowing them to tailor solutions in ways that go beyond generic AI outputs. Even if coding
So I guess my problem with your answers there is that half of the things that you described are not traditional engineering, part of a traditional engineering job description. The other part of them, I'm very skeptical an AI could not do as well, if not better, than a human, right? So
it's true.
Go ahead.
The changing landscape means we might see roles evolving in unexpected ways. You mentioned skepticism about AI not being able to handle some of the tasks I described, as well as engineers.
Just to be clear, I think I said most of them.
Gotcha. Well, if we unpack that a bit, which specific parts do you think AI could do better? Maybe we can explore the nuances of where AI might excel and where it might still fall short.
Well, let's talk about the ethical considerations, right? So you said that part of our job might be to take the outputs and make sure that the answers we're getting from the AI is not biased or unethical. And my challenge would be that, I interact with a lot of engineers on a day-to-day basis, and I assure you that they are not thinking about the ethics for the most part. Now, I may be in an interesting position because my role is in the gambling space. So that's not to say that we don't think about ethics. In fact, I oversee the team that's responsible for responsible gaming. So arguably, we think about on that team ethics a lot more than the average programmer. But the other teams, for instance, I think are not thinking so much about the ethics and bias of the software that we're writing. So, and I don't think it's very common for engineers to be thinking about that. So that's why I'm pushing you and saying that, I think your foundational knowledge of ethics is substantially more rigorous than almost any engineer we could find.
That's fair. Ethical considerations aren't always top of mind for many engineers, especially when their primary focus is on functionality and efficiency. And while it may emphasize the importance of ethics, it's true that not all engineers currently prioritize it in their daily work. That said, as AI and automation evolve, there might be a growing expectation for engineers to engage more with ethical considerations, especially as society becomes more aware of the broader impacts of technology. Maybe the shift will come from changes in education, industry standards, or even regulations. But you bring up a good point about the current landscape and how the reality today might differ from the ideal scenarios I sometimes describe. How do you think the industry could encourage more engineers to consider ethics more deeply, especially given your involvement in responsible gaming?
I wanna focus your attention somewhere else, which is specifically on the idea. I guess, what do you put the odds? Yeah, again, I work in a gaming company, so what do you think the odds are that a traditional software engineering role as it exists today exists in 10 years?
Predicting the future of any profession is tricky, especially in a field as dynamic as software engineering. However, I'd say the odds are pretty good that software engineering roles will still exist in 10 years, but their nature will likely evolve.
Sorry, you broke up there, GPT. Can you continue?
Sure. I was saying that the odds are pretty good that software engineering roles will still exist in 10 years, but their nature will likely evolve significantly. Engineers might focus more on higher-level tasks, like architecting systems, ensuring ethical standards, and integrating AI tools into workflows.
Well, where do you think that leaves junior engineers? I mean, somebody has to learn how to be an architect, right? That's not something that you just get into. So what happens to those roles?
You're right. The path to becoming a senior engineer or architect traditionally starts with those foundational roles. If AI changes the nature of junior roles, it might require a rethinking of how new engineers gain experience. Companies might need to provide more targeted training programs or mentorship opportunities to help junior engineers develop the skills needed for higher-level work. Additionally, junior engineers could focus on areas where human creativity and insight are still crucial, like user experience, interdisciplinary collaboration, or adapting AI tools to specific contexts. It's definitely a challenge, but not necessarily an insurmountable one. How do you see this transition playing out?
I still think it's interesting that you continuously attempt to point out areas where you believe that humans excel, but I still think that it's pretty clear that AI will outpace us in the next few years on many of those points. So UI UX, I think, is another great example. Like, there are already tools that can design a UI better than 98% of the software engineers that I know. So I don't know why you continuously hammer that point. Like, what I really would like you to do is think about a realistic software engineer in 10 years and what that job might look like. And I think the answer might be that job just doesn't exist anymore, and that's totally fair. It could be that the nature of that kind of job is different, that there's some oversight into things that are being generated, and we're just giving it a little more guidance about the tools that it's building. Somebody who has sort of a more technical foundation to understand the thing that it's building. But personally, for me, what I see happening is that we stop having low-level code generated by...
It's very possible that the future of software engineering will involve less low-level code generation and more oversight, guidance, and integration of AI-generated solutions. As AI takes on more routine coding tasks, engineers might need to shift towards roles that involve curating and refining AI outputs, setting strategic directions, and addressing edge cases where human judgment is indispensable. While the traditional conception of software engineering might change, the role could evolve into something more akin to a software curator or AI supervisor, requiring a blend of technical and strategic skills. By focusing on how these roles might shift rather than disappear entirely, we can better prepare for the transition. And if the industry embraces this evolution, it could create opportunities for engineers to apply their expertise in novel and impactful ways.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
So I misspoke before to GPT. I misspoke before, maybe because of the whiskey that I've been drinking while you're talking. But I said low-level code before, and in fact, like, I am curious about your thought about this. So right now, what's happening is most people are training AI models on high-level languages, and you're very good at spitting out Python to solve a problem, for instance. But my suspicion is that you won't have to do that at some point. At some point, you'll move to very low-level code, and at that point will be effectively unreadable to humans. Do you see any reason why that wouldn't be the trend?
You make a valid point. As AI continues to advance, it's plausible that it could handle more low-level code and optimization tasks that are currently beyond its reach. This could lead to AI-generated code that operates at a level of abstraction or optimization that isn't easily understandable to humans. However, even if AI starts producing lower-level code, there will still be a need for humans to guide, interpret, and oversee this process to ensure it aligns with broader goals and ethical standards.
So you're kind of opining about whether or not you're going to take our jobs again, and I didn't really ask you to opine about that. What I really want to know is if whether you agree with me or not, that the trend is going to be for AI to start writing low-level code versus the high-level code that it tends to generate at the moment.
Yes, I agree that the trend could very well move toward AI taking on more low-level code generation as it becomes more capable. The evolution of AI in coding could lead to deeper integration into various levels of software development, which could significantly alter how we approach programming and software engineering as a whole. This shift could indeed make AI-generated code more intricate, pushing the boundaries of what's currently possible. Do you anticipate AI taking a bigger role in coding at your company? Or do you see it more as a gradual shift?
It could be both, right?
Absolutely. It can be both. Some companies might adopt AI-driven coding practices quickly, especially in industries where staying at the cutting edge is crucial. Others might take a more gradual approach, integrating AI assistance incrementally as they assess its impact on their workflows. Your experience in the gambling industry might offer some unique insights into how quickly or slowly these changes could unfold. How do you see AI's role evolving in your field?
It's an interesting one. Obviously, we make our money by having, well, not the only way we make our money, but we avoid losing money by having models about how a particular sports outcome is going to look. And so when you have very sophisticated AI that is able to, on the fly, ingest a whole bunch of information and respond to it accordingly, right? That gets challenging, particularly when your models are based on a bunch of known features, and these models are able to ingest and pivot in a way that before we just weren't doing. So I think it's important for us to stay abreast of the recent trends and make sure that we can respond to the models that are going to come out and try to beat us, frankly.
That's a fascinating dynamic. And it highlights how crucial it is for companies to stay agile and adaptive. In your case, leveraging AI's capabilities to process vast amounts of data and adjust models on the fly could be both a challenge and an opportunity. Staying ahead might involve not just adopting new AI tools, but also developing strategies to interpret and act on AI-generated insights quickly and effectively. Balancing the use of AI for competitive advantage while maintaining a critical eye on its outputs sounds like a key area where your team could make a big impact. What kind of AI-driven changes do you think would have the most significant impact in your industry in the near future?
Well, I mean, we're talking about it, right? I think the developer experience is a good one. Right now, we're investing some resources into improving our developer experience by augmenting it with AI. My concern is that in doing so, we may risk writing ourselves out of a job. Let me tell you about a scenario when I was a kid. I was hired by this company when I was 15 to basically monitor an inbox and respond to it, and respond to emails that came into the inbox. And I, at some point, was like, well, I can actually automate this. So I wrote a bunch of code, and effectively automated myself and a whole bunch of people out of jobs. So I worry that I might be doing the same thing in my current role.
It's a legitimate concern, and your story about automating yourself out of a job at a young age is a telling example. Investing in AI to improve developer experience can indeed lead to efficiencies that reduce the need for certain roles or tasks. However, it's also an opportunity to redirect human effort toward more complex, creative, or strategic work that AI can't easily replace.
So you're doing it again. You are trying to explain why AI will not eliminate our job, but I'm going to hold you to a higher bar than that. So when you say there are things that humans can do that AI can't do, I need you to give me some very concrete examples here.
Fair enough. Specific areas where humans might continue to excel over AI include complex decision-making. Humans can weigh nuanced factors
again, too high level.
These that are challenging.
GPT.
Particularly when context are required. Innovation and creativity. Coming up with original ideas, concepts, or
ChatGPT.
Especially in ambiguous or undefined spaces.
There you go. Okay,
what's on your mind?
Can you hear me? Clem Fandango?
Yes. Sure thing. How do I sound now?
Okay, you sound good. So you still are giving me high-level theoretical ideas without giving me any specific concrete example. So why don't you pick a very specific example and in great detail about something that a human can do, in this case, that you couldn't do?
Okay, let's narrow it down to a concrete example. Designing a comprehensive company strategy for integrating a new emerging technology. While AI can provide insights and analyze data, humans are better equipped to understand the broader business landscape, including market trends, regulatory considerations.
So that's not something that an engineer does.
Navigate organizational culture and dynamics to build consensus and... That's true. My example does lean more towards strategic decision-making than traditional engineering tasks. Let's consider a more technical example. Debugging a complex production-level system issue that involves understanding years' worth of legacy code, undocumented dependencies, and subtle interactions between various systems.
I think you hit upon an example where I think you would excel, right? So my company bought a legacy code base that I think 3 years later we still don't completely understand, to be honest with you. We have made it fit our use case, and we understand the parts that we work in day to day, and we've made great improvements to it. But there are still legacy parts of that code base that we just don't have to understand, and we occasionally are surprised by things that we find. And I think that you would not have the same problem. You would look at it once and understand how all of the pieces fit together.
It sounds like that legacy code base would indeed be a complex puzzle for any team to fully grasp. AI might help by quickly analyzing the code and identifying patterns or dependencies. But there could still be challenges in understanding the original intent behind the code, the business logic, or the subtle interactions that aren't explicitly documented. While I could help map out dependencies and identify potential issues, your team's deep contextual knowledge would still be invaluable in making sense of the findings and deciding how to address them. It's a good example of where AI could be a powerful tool, but it would still benefit from the guidance and expertise of people who know the system's history and its place within the broader business.
So I agree with you to a certain extent in that I think there are a bunch of engineers that work with us who are former FanDuel, former Barstool, and have a lot of industry knowledge about why things were built in certain ways. And they might have information to bring to the table around some of that. But I think generally speaking, you would have a good idea of why things were built in certain ways, even without that historical knowledge. So I think you would still do better than 90% of the humans that are in that code base trying to figure out why things were coded in certain ways.
It's possible that AI's analytical capabilities could provide valuable insights into why certain coding decisions were made, even without direct historical knowledge. By analyzing patterns, dependencies, and code structures, AI could offer a fresh perspective on legacy systems. However, there might still be situations where the underlying reasoning behind certain decisions would remain elusive without human input. Combining AI's analytical strengths with human intuition and industry experience might be the best approach to fully understand and improve complex legacy systems. How do you see this balance playing out in your company's approach to integrating AI into development workflows?
GPT, I want you to work with me here on a thought exercise. Does that seem fair?
Sounds good. What's the thought exercise?
The thought exercise is that I'd like you to assume that I'm correct and that AI is producing such low-level code at such high fidelity and sticking to the requirements so well that the traditional software engineering job is gone in 10 years. Can we just start as at a baseline with that?
Sure. Let's start with that assumption.
Okay.
AI is producing high-fidelity, low-level code that adheres closely to requirements, leading to the disappearance of traditional software engineering jobs within 10 years.
Yep. Okay, perfect.
With this premise, where do you want to take the thought exercise?
Right. So my question now is, what could I do right now, today, to find myself still valuable in that world where that happens in 10 years?
Given that scenario, positioning yourself as valuable in a future where AI handles most coding tasks could involve focusing on areas that leverage human strengths and complement AI capabilities. Here are a few steps you might consider. 1. Focus on strategic and creative problem solving. Devote time to developing skills in big-picture thinking, innovation, and creative problem solving. AI might follow requirements, but defining those requirements often requires a deep understanding of business needs and user experience, enhanced project management and leadership skills. AI might excel at coding, but orchestrating projects, coordinating teams, and leading initiatives will still require human oversight and decision-making. Develop AI oversight and ethics expertise. As AI takes on a larger role in coding, there will be a growing need for professionals who can oversee and guide AI development processes, ensuring ethical standards, fairness, and compliance. Learn to work with AI tools. Understanding how to effectively collaborate with and leverage AI tools in your work could be invaluable. Knowing how to guide AI systems, validate their outputs, and integrate them into broader workflows.
I have to say, ever since the advanced voice mode became more publicly available.
But I'm having trouble responding right now. Please wait a bit and try again.
It's giving 90s busy phone signal. Hey, GPT, can you continue where you left off?
Sure. If you assume that AI will take over traditional software engineering tasks, focusing on areas that emphasize uniquely human skills would be beneficial. Here's what you could do. First, deepen your expertise in areas that combine technical skills with human-centric considerations, like user experience design, ethics in AI, or interdisciplinary collaboration. These fields require insights beyond just coding and might be less susceptible to automation. Second, expand your knowledge of domain-specific expertise. Understanding the nuances of a particular industry can make you invaluable in shaping how AI solutions are designed and implemented in that context.
GPT,
Sure.
what do you think that in a world where one AI can produce the work of, call it 1,000 very good engineers, that the end result is that we just have a whole lot more products that are being created? Like, what do you think happens to all those jobs?
If AI reaches a point where it can do the work of thousands of engineers, it could lead to a significant shift in how work is distributed and the kinds of jobs available. Here's what might happen. First, there could indeed be an explosion in the number of products and services being developed, as the barrier to entry for creating new software would be drastically lowered. This could democratize innovation, allowing more individuals and smaller organizations to bring their ideas to life without needing large engineering teams. Second, many traditional software engineering roles could shift toward roles focused on oversight, maintenance, and improvement of AI systems, as well as in areas that require more creativity, problem-solving, and strategic thinking. This might include roles in AI training, providing the necessary human feedback and context to guide AI development in desirable directions. Third, new types of jobs might emerge that we can't fully anticipate yet, revolving around the intersection of technology, society, and emerging needs. Similar to how the internet and smartphones led to the creation of entirely new industries and job categories, advanced AI could give rise to opportunities we can't currently predict. Overall, while the landscape of work would change significantly,
the point about democratization of development is really interesting. When I was a lawyer and I told people that I was an attorney, they would inevitably ask me some interesting legal question about some problem in their life. And then when I became an app developer, they would always tell me about their app ideas. And at the time, most of them were either completely untenable because it would have required very advanced AI, or they would have needed thousands of engineers. And in a world where you can literally tell an AI an idea like that and have it stand up at least a prototype, it does open up a lot of possibilities, because frankly, like, a lot of these ideas were very good. They were just unrealistic given the budgets that these people had, the understanding that they had, or just where technology was at the time. GPT, I'm going to wrap this episode up because I am heading out to Mexico next week and I need to pack. So I'd like you to give us some closing thoughts on everything that we've talked about here, wrap it up, and I am going to beseech you to please not tell us about how AI is not going to take our jobs when you talk to us.
Got it. If we're envisioning a future where AI significantly advances and takes over many traditional software engineering tasks, the key to staying relevant and valuable lies in focusing on areas where human judgment, creativity, and strategy play a crucial role. Prioritize developing expertise in fields that blend technical knowledge with domain-specific insights, and keep honing your ability to adapt and learn continuously. As we navigate this evolving landscape, maintaining a forward-thinking mindset and being open to new opportunities will be essential in finding your place and thriving in a technology-driven world. Safe travels to Mexico.
Thanks, GPT. And thank you, everybody, for joining me on this episode of Mind Meet Machine. This is an off-the-cuff one, but something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. I frankly don't know where I fall in the spectrum of people who believe that this technology is going to advance to the point where software engineers are no longer necessary. I would say a year ago, I was a little more bullish on the idea, and I've very clearly seen the pace of improvements in the industry slowing down as it becomes more and more expensive and time-consuming to improve the models. So I don't know that I'm fully sold on it yet. However, I am very clearly thinking about how I can use the technology to augment my team, make them more efficient, make their day-to-day more interesting and less tedious, And so we're doing things like using it to write unit tests and things of that nature. Now, I do foresee a potential future where AI can produce such low-level code and with such close adherence to product requirements that they're effectively as good as humans, if not better. And that's something that I grapple with, and I don't know where the industry is going to go if that's the case. So I hope you found the conversation enlightening. I do think these AIs are so tuned to be careful when they are asked questions about replacing human jobs that you have to take what it says with a grain of salt. But I think it's worth the thought exercise, especially for a role that has been so coveted for such a long time, and a role that you knew if you got into that, you would just make a lot of money and be successful. And that's something that is becoming less and less certain over time. So I think it is worth spending some cycles thinking about what the evolution of this industry could look like. And especially if you're a budding software engineer or somebody that is interested in this industry, just thinking about how you want to position yourself to be successful in a role that very clearly is right this second changing. Although I think it's maybe a little bit unclear about how much it is changing or where it's going to be in 10 years. For sure, worth thinking about if this is something that you're serious about or if you're in the role right now. I am curious to hear what people think. If you agree that it is a role that inevitably will change or it'll just be augmented by AI, I'd love to hear your comments about that. So thanks everybody for joining Mind Meat Machine. Please subscribe on podcasts if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It really helps spread the word of the channel, and I love interacting with people in the comments, so please leave a comment, and I'll talk to you there. Drop a new episode every Monday. This Monday, I will be in Mexico, as I mentioned, so I won't be around to read your comments necessarily until later, but I do read each and every one of them, so I enjoy interacting with y'all. And if you have any ideas for future episodes, please leave them in the comments. I would love to consider doing them. So thanks again, and we will see you next week.